Survivor 49, there are just 6 people remaining after episode 11, and so today, I stake my claim on who I think is most to least likely to get every single placement left in the game. The most to least likely person, not just to win the season, but also to get 2nd place, 3rd place, 4th place, 5th place, and 6th place. I talk about it all. I gush about every deets of my predictions for the rest of the season as we almost wrap this whole thing up. So stay tuned for one of the most exciting Edgic analyses we've had all season long. But first, if you don't know how Edgic works, basically Edgic is a system used to analyze the edit of every single character on a season of Survivor and give them a very specific rating in a chart like this for every single episode. And then we use that information to potentially predict where their story might go based on the types of ratings they have been getting so far in the season. There are 3 different parts when Edgic rating. The first is the type of edit. There are 4 types of edits. It can either be UTR in the square, which stands for under the radar, which means you didn't see very much of them. It can be MOR, which stands for middle of the road, which means you saw a decent amount of them, but they weren't super fleshed out as a character. It can be CP, which stands for complex personality, which means you saw a good amount of them and they were pretty fleshed out as a character. Or they could be OTT, which stands for over the top, which means you saw way too much of them. Then we have the second part, which is the tone of the edit, which is the extra letter tacked on to the end. That can either be a P for a positive leaning tone, a N for a negative leaning tone, an M for a mixed tone, a little bit of both, or just no extra letter added on at all for just a neutral tone, no tone one way or the other, nothing really special going on, just a normal episode. And finally, we have the number in the Edgic rating, which is basically just a visibility scale from 1 to 5 on how much screen time they got in the episode. 1 for you barely saw them at all. 5 for you saw an absolute ton of them. And so here we are, episode 11. We're getting real close to the end. And we, of course, lost this week. Sophie S. Wah, wah, wah. Listen, I'm not that surprised, okay? I've had people dissing me for believing in Sophie S. I moved Sophie S up to 4th most likely to win the season last week. Everyone said I was crazy. Was I crazy? Yes. But I still feel fine about it. I'm not surprised to see her go out here. I really, in my heart of hearts, thought she was going to be 5th place. 7th place makes perfect sense. Not too surprising. If you look at the past few seasons, what 7th place has been like, she fits into that realm as well in terms of that type of edit. So it's not that crazy. I'm sad to see her go. My winner pick finally gone. But she lasted way longer than I think a lot of people might have expected earlier in this season, okay? I still feel pretty good about it. I'm a Sophie Segretti stan, okay? Sophie, if you're hearing this, I loved you on the show. Thanks for being on. So sad to see her go, but it's not too surprising. Doesn't change up too much, unlike last week. So we're going to try to get through the kind of basic Edgic quick today, hopefully, because I got some extra special plans different than what I've done in previous weeks for the end of this video. Because we're getting down to, we only have 6 players remaining in the game, which means we can really start to parse out what the rest of this season is most to least likely going to look like. And I have a lot of thoughts on that I have been stewing on. So stay tuned to see all that. But first, we have to give Edgic ratings to everybody that was in this episode. So we lose Sophie here. I feel like definitely we're looking at probably a negative tone here for Sophie. A lot of people want to get her out. A lot of talking bad about her and whatnot to extents that I think were maybe not the right decisions. My hot take here is I feel like this was really not a good move for most people to take out Sophie. I guess maybe that's not a hot take, but we'll go individually, but I didn't really love strategically this vote for a lot of people. But in terms of confessionals this episode, Sophie does get 6 confessionals, which is about on par with where she's been at. I feel like, I don't know, I feel like she was pretty present in this episode. I think we're probably looking at a complex personality negative. And either 3 or 4. I've been giving her 4s the past 4 episodes. Where is she in this less than the past few episodes? I don't think so. I mean, I feel like she was still pretty present. We'll give her a 4. Heck with it. Why not? I don't know. Yeah. Complex personality -4, I think. Appropriate way for Sophie to go out here. R.I.P. Queen. But let's get to the ratings for everybody else, going from top to bottom in alphabetical order. Starting with Kristina, who I felt like was barely in this episode this week. I don't really remember at all. She gets 2 confessionals. I am willing to give, I think, an under the radar here for Kristina. Like, I don't remember anything about Kristina in this episode. I really don't. I remember one confessional of her saying she wants to vote out Savannah, I believe. I mean, she was in her in Tribal was pretty good, where she was talking about how she like just straight up hates Savannah. That was pretty funny, but I still feel like I gotta give it under the radar. Probably under the radar too, I guess. I mean, I don't know if there was tone really. I don't think people were talking about Kristina really much in this episode. So yeah, under the radar too here for Kristina. Rizo gets 8 confessionals. I didn't feel like Rizo was that prominent here. I mean, he definitely does do quite a bit. Tries to flip the vote. He talks about turning it around on Sophie and how he, suspects what Steven got on the journey and all that. Yeah, I mean, I think we're probably looking at complex personality. I think probably a neutral complex personality. I mean, there was a little bit of negativity in the sense that, like, he was wrong about his guess, but there was also positivity in how he flipped the vote. I don't think it was enough to be a mixed. I think it just kind of evens out to be a pretty neutral tone here. We're going to give him a complex personality, either 3 or 4. I think probably 4. Yeah, I mean, he was in the episode quite a bit. He was doing a lot here, so we'll give him the 4. For Sage, we'll take a look at her confessionals, 8 confessionals as well. I think that this was probably an over-the-top episode for Sage. Again, I felt like... Again, very present in a kind of weird way. A lot of talk about wanting to get revenge and whatnot. I think I'm going to go an over-the-top mixed. I think I might grab this over-the-top mixed 4 on Sage this episode. Because I feel like it was kind of painted positively, but personally, I felt very negative about Sage this episode. I felt like I did not like the decision she was making strategically, or in, just personal bias wise. So yeah, I mean, I think it's on the verge of a positive rating, but I do think there was still some talk about how she is too emotional, and also some talk about how, like, it kind of was setting up that, like, she can't really win at the end. that's kind of where it felt like it was for me. So, gotta go with the overtime mix 4, I think, for Sage. Savannah, only 3 confessionals. I feel like this was a pretty low-key episode for Savannah. Probably gotta go negative again, right? Or is it mixed because she was able to kind of pull off an impressive situation here? I'm trying to think if there was enough potential positive tone to bring her up to a mixed. I think it is maybe mixed because Sage was like willing to work with her and whatnot. I think I'm gonna give her a middle of the road mixed 2. I think, honestly, I feel like she was not super present in this episode other than again at Tribal. So yeah, I think that's where I'm at for Savannah. Sophie, definitely in a much bigger episode than she's had in quite some time. I think we're bumping her up to complex personality, probably at least a 3, if not a 4. She gets 7 confessionals here. I definitely felt like she was pretty present in the episode. I feel like really she was probably just as present as Rizo. Probably, I'm trying to think if there was tone on Soph this episode. I mean, she definitely has some positivity. It felt like, she's kind of pulling some stuff off. But she also has some, like, Sage was, like, not trusting her. Maybe we'll go with a complex personality mixed for Sophie this episode. I feel like maybe feels appropriate because there was kind of that stuff of Sage being like, I don't really believe Soph, I don't really trust her. But then there was other people talk about how they do kind of trust her and whatnot. But she was kind of like scheming, but like the scheming was good. So yeah, sure. Complex personality mixed 4, I guess. Could be a 3. But we're getting down to brass tacks here. I feel like if I'm giving the other Sophie, and I'm giving Rizo 4s, then I probably should give Sophie a 4. Someone could maybe get bumped down, but yeah. Maybe I bumped Sophie down to a 3 just because I don't have any 3s. I think that's probably appropriate. Or, well, I mean, but there was a lot of talking about Sophie. I mean, no, we'll stick with the 4. To heck with it. I don't know. I'm probably being too generous here this episode. Steven, however, massive episode for Steven. Massive, massive, massive. So much content here. Yeah, I mean, look, he gets 17 confessionals. I'm actually not wanting to go over the top. I actually feel like this was more of a complex episode for Steven than he's maybe had in a while. But it kind of was so over the top with how much people were talking about him. But his scenes weren't over the top. But I don't know if it was that complex of an episode either. It was. I mean, he was bluffing his advantage. We saw him talk about that. We saw him debating who to vote for and kind of liking Rizzo's plan. I think I'm going to go with a complex personality mixed 5 for Steven. This is absolutely a 5 episode if I've ever seen one. And I think that I probably go mixed tone because a lot of people really want him out, but also they view him as a big threat. It's a positive. It could even be a positive episode maybe for Steven. I'm not totally against that, but I do think like there's so many people wanted him out. That's kind of tough to say. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the mixed, but it could be a positive tone for Steven. I think Steven, if anyone gets a positive this episode, it's Steven. But I'm not quite sure I want to go there. So we're going to keep it where it is. And those are the Edgic ratings. Trying to get through them quick this week because going to have a lot more thoughts later on. So let's just hop right into the contenders for this week. And I'm going to maybe talk a little bit about how I think that they're doing in the game right now as I talk about each person, and then we'll do my extra fun, spicy predictions at the end. Sophie leaves here, and I feel like this was not great for a lot of people. First of all, Kristina staying in last as a contender. She gets very little play. This was one of her worst episodes in a while, honestly. She's just clearly not a focal character. No one from Hina is, and Kristina is not even pretty low on that totem pole, even of Hina. I think that this episode, all we saw was, I want to vote for Savannah, and then she doesn't. We don't even know why she doesn't. We don't get any inkling of what she wants, where she's going. All we know is that she's aligned with Steven, and that's pretty much it. So, yeah, I don't love that for Kristina. I just think there's not much to say there, really. I am going to leave Sage in second last. I also think Sage is basically dead in the water here. And my thoughts about Sage are twofold. For one, I don't understand this whole revenge plot from Sage. Honestly, this is just me rambling, my personal bias. I didn't like this at all. I felt like this was really bad. It was clearly fueled by emotion, and not even emotion that made sense. Savannah's been your enemy in a very negative way for so long that you finally have a shot at Savannah, and Sage doesn't take it. I think that is crazy strategically and crazy edgically as well. I just think that I didn't like that, and I particularly didn't like a lot of the kind of way that we were shown hypocrisy from Sage in this episode, where, and this is really what I think absolutely kills her, 0% chance of winning. She, these bottom two, no shot at winning. Particularly with Sage, at the beginning of the episode, she says to Sophie S, you just handed Savannah the $1 million. Or you let Savannah win, is what she said. You let Savannah win this game by not voting her out. And then Sage has a clear shot at Savannah, is able to recoup everything she lost and really bounce back in this game potentially in a major way by voting out Savannah, and she doesn't. She's fueled out of spite and emotion here and takes revenge against Sophie, which I just think completely tanks her game in so many ways. And then to have the gall to be making, I really didn't like Jawan in this episode either. I could even give Jawan a negative rating this episode, because the way that they were hyping each other up on the jury at tribal council, I thought was so BS and irritating to me. I mean, maybe I've seen other people maybe like that. I hated it. I thought it was so it just didn't even make any sense to me. It felt so self-righteous, I guess, in a way that didn't even work, because Sophie wasn't even the enemy. In so many ways, Sophie was on the bottom of that side very clearly. Sage and Jawan realized they were on the bottom of their Uli group and flipped earlier and voted out Nate. And then when Sophie does the same exact thing that they did to them, they get all pissy about it and be like, "Oh yeah, screw you, Sophie. We're taking you out. We're getting revenge." BS. They're getting revenge for Nate. What are you talking about? And the thing is that Sophie isn't even the reason why Jawan left. Sophie wanted to vote out Steven. She was saying she wanted to vote out Steven, and it was Savannah, your enemy that you hate, that was the one that said, let's vote out Jawan or Sage instead. And I mean, Sophie, Sage, was the only reason why you're still in the game. If Sophie didn't say, let's vote out Juwan instead of Sage, even though we didn't technically see that, but that, that is implied on what happened. If she didn't say that, then Sage goes home because that's who everyone else wanted to go. Sophie is like not the person to get revenge against here. I just felt like it was so bad. I was like, it really, really made me feel bad about Sage. I didn't give her a negative rating because I didn't think it was painted that negatively, but I really, no. I felt like everything about this decision and the way they handled it was really just not great. Not great. So that's one reason why I think that Sage is absolutely dead in the water, and I didn't like this move for her at all because now I feel like she doesn't really have anywhere to go and basically no win equity and made a whole storyline out of nothing. But also, a big thing, and this is what really kills Sage and Kristina for me, is that they weren't even a consideration to vote out this time, which is insane. Steven is the target for like what seems to be an alliance of 4 at this point. Majority. Steven wins immunity. The majority doesn't even once, not once, do we see them mention, hey, let's pivot the vote to either Kristina or Sage. Either one, who are the other people on the bottom and in the alliance that we're against. Sage and Kristina are viewed as such little threats. They are so insignificant in the game strategically to the other players that it's not even worth voting them out. They would rather make a stupid move for all of them and turn on their own allies in ways that I think was not good for them. They would rather do that than vote out Sage and Kristina because they're so strategically insignificant. That is crazy. That is crazy. I can't believe that no one even talked about pivoting the vote to one of them. I think Sophie trying to vote out Savannah here is stupid, and I think that Rizo and the gang trying to vote out Sophie here is also pretty stupid. I mean, both aren't, maybe slightly better, but no, it's still bad. It's bad for all of them. You just gotta take out one of the small threats, I think, here. You just take out Sage, and then if you can't get the shot on Steven next time, then you start flipping on your own people. But I just felt like this was so it was not a good move, and the fact that Sage and Kristina slipped by here without ever being a consideration for the vote just really speaks to me that they have no win equity. No one wants to vote them out because they're not going to win at the end at all. It kills their chances for me here. And maybe that's like a kind of strategic element. That's reading into it. But they didn't tell us that edgically, but that's, if there were plans to vote out Sage and Kristina at some point, I feel like we should have seen that. So, yeah, I just think that they are at 0% both. And I'm going to keep Steven here. Steven, I also think voting out Sophie doesn't make a lot of sense. It's better to break up that core group than vote out this kind of random swing vote person. I guess Sophie's a big threat and they want her out and she can win immunity, but so is Savannah, who you're so concerned about. And I think that, it's so easy to just tell Rizo, yeah, we're voting for Sophie. And then you go back to, the other people and be like, hey guys, we're voting for Rizo or we're voting for Savannah, whatever it is. It's not, they didn't need to do it. It's fine, but I don't love it. Rizo is getting moved down to 3rd. I definitely think he's less likely to win than these other two people at this point. I don't think Rizo wins the season. because this was kind of a weird episode for him where like he does do good work, but also kind of misreads things a little bit, but acts correctly based on his misreads at least, so that's good. But I still think that, again, you convince Steven and Kristina and all of them and Sage to vote for Sophie, and then you go back to Soph and Savannah and you say, hey guys, we're voting for Sage tonight, or we're voting for Kristina tonight. And then worst comes to worst, it's a tie vote, and either Sophie or Kristina goes home, which is perfect, and it causes dissension among the group. I mean, yes, it's like a really schemy play, and people would probably be really pissy at them about it. I mean, hell, we know that Sage does not like that type of thing. Maybe this is a better play for jury votes, but I just think it puts themselves in a position where it's 3-3 next time. Soph is considering flipping. You know that Steven has an advantage of some kind. I don't know where Rizo goes from here. I think Rizo is in a lot of trouble at the next vote. And yes, he thinks he has the idol, but even with the idol, I mean, if you misplay it, you've got 2 more votes, man, you know? It's hard strategically for him to not go out at one of the next 2 tribals, just strategically. So I think that this was, again, a misplay. I think you got to go and take out a Kristina or a Sage here. Probably Sage would be better because she'd be so mad about it. And then you save Sophie for later. That's my take. And I think that Rizo really... I just don't really think he wins. He's a big threat, but I think he's going to be taken out at the end. And I'm going to leave... Well, not leave, but I'm putting Sophie at number 2. She's a big threat, and a lot of people have put Sophie at number 1 right now. I'd say she's a big threat. She's a big threat, like, edgically, I guess. But my heart is telling me, my gut is just telling me that I still think that Savannah's going to win. Sophie has just really fallen off for a while now, and we've just got this weird smoking Chekhov's gun of the knowledge is power, and we keep hearing about it over and over and over again. And there's one of 2 ways this knowledge is power could go, and the reason why we keep hearing about it, and it's basically the only thing we hear Sophie talk about anymore. Either this is like a Mitch's big move, or even more like a Jake O'Kane type move, you know, even a better comparison, and it misses or doesn't work or it doesn't get her enough to get to the win, and it falls flat. Or maybe, just maybe, this knowledge is power is the new Kyle and Camilla. We're the most secret duo in the history of Survivor, and I went crazy about it when we went on a big rant about last season. Maybe this is that. Sophie, she's got the knowledge is power, okay? She can freaking steal anyone's advantage. Rizzo's got I can steal it. I ain't worried about Steven's advantage. I can steal it. I can steal anything. I'm going to win this game because I got the freaking knowledge is power. And I had it's the most secret alliance ever in Survivor is Sophie and the knowledge is power. No one ever has known about it. It hasn't told a single soul. It's just... it's too much. I'm losing it again. But throwback for the long-term viewers there. But anyways, I think that yes, that could be Kyle. You know, that could be the Camilla to Kyle. The knowledge of power is the Sophie. Very possible. I just think it's so much a kind of singular part of her narrative at this point. And I just think that In my heart of hearts, I just think I don't think it's going to necessarily fail. It could succeed, but I just don't see it taking her to the win. I think Savannah is still my number one choice. She is talked about as a very big threat constantly. I didn't love that Kristina straight up said she didn't like her at all. That hurt Savannah's chances a little bit for me. But I do still think that, she has so much second player perspective, just generally, that I think Sophie doesn't really have. Haven't seen a ton of Sophie player perspective. Savannah gets so much constantly, a lot of very negative, but also a lot very positive, and saying that she's a big threat, she's got to get voted out, yada, 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 yada. And it's where my gut's at right now. I will say another thing. I will say that in Jawan's exit interview, he mentioned at one point that, and I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but he just says at one point, subtly sneaks in that this is a season of very strong women. Really good women on this season, is what he says. And I thought, strange thing to point out if Rizo or Steven win. Maybe not. Maybe it's just out of the kindness of his heart. He's just speaking well about the women of the season, which I think is very true. I do think the women have largely run this season outside of Rizo, really. But it does make me think that it has to be Savannah or Sophie at this point. Sage and Kristina, as I said, are completely dead edgically, and that kind of rules out Rizo and Steven a little bit. I mean, again, that's not really something to read into. It's just like, I already thought it was going to be Savannah or Sophie, and that kind of just solidified it even more for me. And yeah, I think Savannah, I thought of this comparison on how and why I think Savannah could win. A couple comparisons. One I've kind of made before, which is if you kind of leap across the pond a little bit and look at a very recent season, Australia versus the world. If you watch that season, I think that this is very similar to that season to me, in the potential Savannah winning storyline. I also think, then this is strange, but bear with me here. I have heard people talk about CT from The Challenge. Particularly, I think Johnny Bananas might have been the person that said this, and I think other people probably have said it as well. That CT is very good at The Challenge because part of really his game is all about simply being there and being present and ruling out of fear. People are just scared to go after CT. He's not the most strategic. He's not making the most intense social bonds. He's not doing the most scheming. He's not the best at the, interworkings of the game. He simply just has to be there and be CT, and people are so afraid to go after him because he's the guy. He's him, basically, right? He rules out of fear and out of just presence. And that description of CT, I think, is really something I would apply to Savannah on this season. That's how I feel about what Savannah's strength is, and how I think her winning story would be if she wins this season, is because she simply just rules out of fear. She's not the best strategist. She's good, but not the best. She's not the best socially, far from it. But there's just this sense, just her presence. And we saw this explicitly shown in the MC boot in episode 8. When things were going all right on the beach, and then Savannah pulls up on the boat. And everyone just goes crazy, right? She's like the Cthulhu of Survivor, that you just gaze up on her and it causes you to go nuts and start voting out your own allies and making crazy moves. There's just something about her presence that she just emanates this like dominating energy that just makes everyone so afraid of her, and either afraid to take a shot at her, or just not able to make it happen, really. Like, they just can't get her out. Not necessarily by strategy or socially, just by, like, power. And that's that's the winning game I see for Savannah in this season. Strange comparison, but that's where I think I'm at. It's kind of a mix of CT from the challenge and Australia versus the world, I think is where I'm at and how I think Savannah is going to win this game. Now, it's time for predictions. We're going to keep, I really think it's just kind of a 2-horse race, but I'll keep Rizo in it for now, just for fun. We'll put him over in the Contender Rankings. Oh, not him. All 3 of them over here. And then we'll talk about my predictions, and I'll do kind of quick predictions, and then I'll do my more in-depth thing. I think that, listen, last week I said, I think that Kristina or Sage have got to go. However, the trailer told us explicitly that Sophie is going next week. And the trailer has been right so many times this season, and it has been really irritating. Whoever is editing the next time on Survivors is blowing it. Because, man, it's been so obvious. I also want to say, I didn't say this like at the beginning of this episode. I kind of forgot, but I'll say it now. I thought this episode sucked. I thought this week's episode 11, was terrible. Yeah, I mean, listen, I was starting to have hope for this season. It was gaining a little bit of momentum, and I was like, we really got to end it off really strong with a great last few episodes for this to be like a good season. And, I mean, this was like arguably maybe the worst episode of the season, in my opinion. It was so obvious who was getting voted out. They tried to make it seem like it was Savannah. It was not even edgically on the rest of the season, just purely based on the episode itself. It clearly wasn't going to be Savannah. We saw even Steven, who should have been a clear Savannah vote, being like, yeah, I mean, we could vote Savannah, but like, I kind of like Rizo's plan about voting. I'm voting for Sophie. Basically, that's what it said. Like, I mean, it's so clear that Sophie was getting voted out. Just really was not that exciting. I don't know. I mean, there's only so much you can do sometimes, but in terms of exciting endgame that we were promised, I feel like this was not it. This was a real stinker of an episode. That being said, listen, I think I have to stop fighting it. Every single week, they've told us exactly who's getting voted out next. I got to start listening. And I think that it probably has got to be one of the 2 guys. It's got to be Steven or Rizo, because that's what the preview said. I mean, it made it seem like a guy was going home. Rizo said, I think Rizzo's going for Steven. I think Steven's going for Rizo. It just makes the most sense, and I think they have probably the 2 best sixth place edits at this point. And so I'm locking in my prediction. I think Rizzo's going home next week. I think Rizzo's getting 6th place. I think that probably Sophie steals his idol, or maybe he gives it to Savannah, and then it just doesn't get played, or something along the lines happens, and Rizo gets voted out next week. It just feels like that is the most clear direction of what we're going in, to me. And I've thought about this. My predictions for the rest of the season. I'm going to say what my gut is telling me. This is the story of what my gut is telling me each person's going to go out in. I'll pull it up now. I think I'm going to do... Well, actually, let me copy this. Placement rankings for the rest of the season. We've been doing contender rankings all season of who is most least likely to win the season. But what about the rest of the rankings? Because there are edits that you can tell based on what placement someone is going to get in the season. And so I thought this would be a little bit of a fun thing to do at the end. to give placement rankings for every single thing. So I to make it simplest, I'm just going to give my like gut feeling about what the rest of the season is going to be, and then I'll go through and add in all of the rest of the contenders, just because I want to give my stake in my claim on the official prediction, and then all the alternate scenarios can come after. So I said I think Rizo's going out next week. I think Rizo's given 6th place to me. You know, put him in with Shaheen, put him in with Baby Andy. I see it. The 6th place for Rizo. We're looking at 5th place. Based on the way things have to go, in my prediction, I think it somehow has to be Sage. I don't really know how, but I don't know how Sage goes out in 5th place, but it is kind of how it goes. Now, I will say, this episode did give some pretty good seeds about Sage being a losing finalist, particularly kind of like Sophie said she wants to go to the final 3 with Sage. They would stand a good chance against each other. That does make me think that Sage could be a losing finalist. But based on my crazy crackpot scheme, she's got to be 5th place. Though I think some of these could be swapped in pretty decent likelihood. But I'm going to leave Sage at 5th for now. And then I'm going to put Kristina in 4th. The only way I think Kristina goes at this point is she has to lose fire making, because why on earth does anyone vote her out? She's no threat at all. She's clearly become the GOAT of the season, but I don't think that she's a GOAT that can be in the final 3, because she has not had the story to be there really. I think, I can see her being kind of like a teeny, like an emotionally charged edit with some lovable flashback scenes. I think makes a lot of sense for her getting that 4th place edit. You also, I'm seeing like Liz, someone who kind of has some big moments, but otherwise is pretty under edited compared to a lot of the other characters in the season. Has a big crash out at one of the challenges. I think Kristina has to lose fire, honestly, and I just don't know where else she goes. I think Sage and Kristina are safe next week. There's no way I really don't think they can get voted out, just because, unless it's Sage out of spite, but otherwise, why? Clearly they've told us that they are no threat. And I don't think Kristina has, if Kristina's not final 2. Okay, she's not final 2. It's not happening. So she's either 3rd or 4th, maybe 5th. Probably. So then we're top 3. In my world, where Savannah is the winner of the season, I think that means, hot take alert, I think Sophie is 3rd place. I said this last week that Sophie was starting to give me 3rd place energy a little bit, where it's like really big pre-merge and then kind of not very significant merge edit. It's kind of giving what Sophie's had so far. Also, like, I'm seeing a little bit of this kind of, I gotta make a move, but I can't ever get it together, like a Jake O'Kane, like an Owen. This is a classic kind of 3rd place narrative as well. So I'm putting Sophie there, and I'm putting Steven as my 2nd place prediction. I think that Steven just gives me big 2nd place energy. I don't think he can win Hina, all that stuff. But I do think he's being painted as a big threat. They're making him seem like he's threatening, like he could win. He just seems like 2nd place. He reminds me a lot of Charlie. It really feels like a Charlie narrative for Steven IMO. So yeah, that is why I think Steven's there. A lot of people said they think Steven's 5th or 6th. I think that's also very viable. But I don't think he's 3rd just because we've seen him so much talk about as a threat. So I think he's our 2nd placer. And hot take alert, I feel like I heard at some point that Jeff said that the final tribal council this season is really crazy. Crazy stuff going on at Final Tribal. Could we be looking at a tie vote? Tie vote? Dom and Wendell? Now, I did say earlier in the season I thought Savannah and Sophie were the Dom and Wendell this season. So maybe they get Dom and Wendelled. Okay, that's possible. But I'm putting in, I think Savannah and Steven tie the vote. They both got a lot of votes on the jury, right? Savannah's got Rizo and Sophie and Nate. Steven has got definitely Kristina, probably MC, probably Sage, maybe Alex. And then Savannah, bold prediction, I think picks up Jawan. I think Jawan talks about, again, we're going back to that. Jawan saying that this season is full of strong women. Maybe he respects the game Savannah played. Tie vote 4-4. And then Sophie has to break the tie and votes for Savannah to win this season. That's also partly why I think Sophie is 3rd place, because if these are the top, if that works, I think the best way that situation works is for Sophie to be 3rd place. I don't know. I also thought it could be a 3-3-2 vote, which is even crazier somehow, where Savannah gets Nate, Rizo, and Sophie, and Steven gets probably Kristina, probably Sage. I don't know about Sage. MC is Sage, and then Sophie somehow gets like Alex and either like Sage or Jawan or someone. And so then it's 3-3-2. Is that possible? Is that possible? Yeah, 3-3-2. That's possible. So 3-3-2, either 4-4-0 or 3-3-2. And then Sophie breaks the tie either way. If we want a crazy tribal, that is my big crazy prediction. So let's try to get through the rest of these quick, because we're already going pretty long. I've tried to get through this quick, and we've already taken a while. Rizo, most likely in 6th place. I think I gotta put Steven as 2nd most likely 6th place. I definitely think good place for like a big threat that's not actually going to be at the end of go. So that makes sense for them. I kind of think Sage is 3rd most likely in a weird way, not because I think she's the biggest threat, but because I do also often say that 6th place is a great time for like whoever goes on to win this season to take out like someone they need to take out, or maybe not they take them out, but like someone gets voted out, and that sets up the story why the winner of the season wins. And since Sage is so opposed to Savannah, and I think Savannah wins, I think it would make sense for Sage to go there in a world where Savannah wins the season. I'm going to put Sophie's 4th. I think it's very possible she tries to make a big move and it fails. I don't really think Savannah gets 6th. I do think, she fits in that pocket with what I was saying about Rizo and Steven. I just think she has a better edit. I just would be shocked if she goes out next week. After everything we've been through, I think the world where Savannah gets 6th is probably the best world where Rizo could win the game. That I think is viable. I don't think that Savannah and Rizo can both be in the final 3 together, just because I feel like they're like them as a duo hasn't been super highlighted this season, and I feel like if they're in the final 2 together, you paint them as the best duo of all time, right? If anyone is the duo in the final 3 together, it's Savannah and Sophie, right? That is clearly what the edit has tried to tell us. So either one of them has to go before that. I think it's almost definitely going to be Rizo. And then probably Savannah and Sophie are in the final 3 together. But, and then I'm going to put Kristina as least likely to get 6th place, just because I don't think she can go next week. She's such a little threat. No one wants to vote her out. Why would they vote her out at 6th? It doesn't really make any sense. Again, 6th place is always pretty much always a very largely edited character in the season. Kristina's the least large character left. I don't think she gets 6th. 5th place is a little bit more up for grabs. I'd often say 5th place is someone that gets a little bit under-edited. Someone that's like a good player and shown to be capable, but doesn't get that big of an edit. So you're not that surprised that they get voted out or devastated they get voted out right away at the beginning of the finale. I think Sage fits that. A lot of people think it's Steven. I think it's viable that Steven could be that, but I think Steven has a bigger edit than what that is. I might put Steven second most likely, honestly, just because I do think people make a lot of good points about that. I think Kristina probably, if she doesn't go out and fire, 5th place makes a lot of sense. I don't know how she gets voted out 5th place, but you gotta kind of just get her out of the way. Then we go Sophi again. I do think that that's a viable spot for Sophi to go. Kind of what I was saying about like a threat, but not too over edited. I don't think Rizo gets 5th place. I think Savannah's even less likely, though. So I guess we probably go Rizo than Savannah. I think Savannah has too big of an edit to be 5th place. And Rizo, it makes sense, but I do think it would still be a little bit surprising. But he could be like, like a Genevieve or a Ricard 5th place. I mean, I can see it. Fire-making loser. I definitely think Rizo is the next most likely. A lot of people have been saying most of the season Rizo gives big 4th place fire-making loser energy. I do think that seems pretty viable. If he's not 6th place, I do think he's 4th place. Those are really the 2 spots I see Rizo going. I think he's either 6th, 4th, or 2nd, but 2nd feels like a real long shot, especially what I said about Savannah earlier, them as a duo. Just doesn't seem super possible, so I think Rizzo's probably 2nd most likely for 4th place. Fire-making loser. And then, I mean, it's really a toss-up. I think any of the rest of these people could lose fire. I think that I don't really see Sophi being the fire-making loser. I do think she's in the final 3. But I do think it works. And like maybe she loses fire and the final 3 is Savannah, Steven, Sage. That's very possible. Sage is like the GOAT 3rd place that we have kind of seen that. Otherwise, I think Sage is I'd probably put Sage next just because of like, the winner kind of taking out their op, or maybe Sophie wants to be at the end of Sage and she fails and that's part of why she loses, or she could still win despite that. If Savannah goes out any time that's not first, it's got to be in fire. So I guess I'll put it next. And I guess Steven is the least likely, and then Sophie because of what I said about Sophie. So I'm surprised to put Steven there. I just think that like he doesn't really give fire making to me. He gives like 2nd or 5th or 6th probably. Yeah, and I think Sophie makes sense, but it's a pretty vague ranking. 3rd place, listen, I have Sophie there. I think Sage is definitely next most likely. I think Sage really makes sense for a 3rd placer. I think especially if Sophie gets 2nd place, which I think the world where like Savannah's 1st, Sophie's 2nd, and Sage is 3rd, that works really well. Or Sophie, then Savannah, then Sage. Those worlds all work a lot. I think those are very likely worlds, probably. If I'm wrong about the Steven 2nd place thing, which I think most people think I don't think it's a popular opinion. So the Sage 3rd place makes a lot of sense. Those are really the real 3rd place contenders. I guess I go Kristina next just because if she somehow gets to the end, she could be like a 0 vote finalist, like just off to the side. would not surprise me that much. It would be surprising, but it wouldn't be that surprising. Probably put Savannah next. I think Savannah could be a third place just because people really don't like her. But again, that would be kind of crazy. I think the world with Savannah's third place is probably the world where Sophie wins and Rizo gets second. But it's not a super viable world. I don't think Steven can get third place. I think I put Steven last here. Just because we've had so much talk about him being a threat. It would be crazy at this point. Although, I mean, Rizo is pretty unlikely as well. But I could see Rizo maybe getting third to Savannah and Sophie. Or Savannah and Steven. I don't know. It's highly unlikely. Those are both pretty unlikely. But it's probably the top two, maybe three for that spot. And then finally, second place, right off the bat, I can put Kristina at the bottom. No way. No shot Kristina is making the top two. I just don't see it. I don't know how. The only way where Kristina gets second place is if her and Sage are at the end, which is also why I think Sage is second least likely. Those two both have to be at the end for them to get second place. There's no way people get less votes than her, I think. It's highly unlikely. I'm going to put Sophie's the second most likely second place. Because I do think her getting second place to Savannah makes a lot of sense. I've been saying that pretty much the whole season, really. So that does definitely check out. If Sophie gets second place, Savannah's the winner, and Sage is third, that really, really works for me. I also want to say there's no shot that Kristina and Steven are both in the final three together. That just seems... There's no way you put two Hinas in the final two and give the Hina the worst edit of all time. I think that would be so bizarre, especially compared to like last season when there was two Loggies in the final two or in the final three, and they got such a huge edit. That would be absurd. So that's definitely not going to happen. I'll put Savannah next because I do think it's very possible. I do think basically if Savannah isn't the winner, I think the most likely other scenario for her is that Sophie wins the season and Savannah gets second place. I think that's definitely possible. Savannah kind of out of like people don't like her. They like Sophi more. That definitely works. And then Rizo ends up being fourth there. I didn't think Rizo, I don't really think Rizzo's in the final three, but if he is, then second place probably seems like what I would predict for him. I think it's less likely than these people. I feel pretty good about him being fourth, but there's a huge lead because Sage and Kristina cannot be, right? Whereas these four all could be second place. These two, I think, cannot be. And they can't be first or second. There's just, I don't believe it. So yeah, those are my rankings for the contenders for every single placement left in the season. Pretty exciting stuff here, filling it all out. I think it's pretty fun. It's a crazy chart. We're going a little bit long in this video, but getting out all the predictions, I think this was super fun to think about. Let me know if you have any critiques of anything I've said in the whole episode, or particularly of this chart. If you have any of these scenarios that you think are most likely or least likely, or if you would move anyone up or down in any of these contender rankings. Maybe I'll update it again next week. Maybe not. I'll probably have some other ideas of what I want to talk about next week in a penultimate episode. But this is what I think based on traditionally what the edits look like in the new era, what each placement is most likely to be. And that's all I got, I believe, for this week. Had a ton of thoughts about this episode and where the season is at. I'm down on the season right now. I think this was not a great episode, but I'm still excited to see how it ends. I do think that there are still some very likable people on the season generally. which have kept me invested enough, at least. So that has been fun, and I'm excited to see the end. Leave your comments in the comments below, any thoughts you have, anything I said, or anything else generally. And if you enjoyed, please press the subscribe button so you can see my penultimate prediction next week and my finale reaction after that, and everything I will do for future seasons doing Edgic. And click that bell so you never miss an upload. And click that like button. Really, really helps a lot. I would really, really appreciate it to get up in that algorithm a little bit more. I love doing these videos. They're so much fun. I love engaging with the community. Appreciate you all for watching it. It means a lot. It's a fun season, and we'll see what happens. I have been North, and I will see you all next time. Stay frosty, y'all.